Hey guys, how's it going? Tim Meister here, and with the recent release of the new map editor in City Skylines 2, I thought it would be a good time to give you guys a tutorial on how to create custom maps of your own. Perhaps you want to create a map of your hometown or anywhere in the world. So luckily, there's tools to allow us to do that, and it's not as complicated as it may seem. So here's how to do it. The first thing you want to do is go to this link here. So this fine human being has created this awesome tool that will allow us to export a height map from anywhere in the world, which we can then import into City Skylines 2 and begin playing on that map. What you want to do here is you'll be presented with this square, which you can drag and move wherever you want in the world. So whatever is included in this green area here is your buildable area. This is what you can actually play on. Whereas anything included in this gray square here is your world map. And this is outside of the playable area. So you can simply drag this box wherever you want. In this case, I'm just going to drop it here on New York City, and we're going to export our very own map of New York. So what you want to do once you have your location chosen is open a new tab in your browser and go to mapbox.com. Once you're there, you're going to want to create an account, and it will force you to enter a credit card number. However, we don't have to purchase anything. This is totally free. We're just going to use the free features of this website. So once you create your account, go onto your account page, and we're going to have to create what's called an API token before we're able to export our map. So this is a requirement from the actual mapping tool. So this is super easy to do. It only takes 2 seconds. What you want to do here is on the MapBox page, you're going to want to go create a token. And here we can name it whatever we want. So we'll do CS2. Don't change any of these settings down below here. And under where it says URL, we're simply going to copy paste the link from our map exporting tool. And you're going to go add URL. And next, you're going to want to go create token. I'm not going to do it because I've already created my API token, but in your case, you would want to hit create token. And the token that you create will appear on this page here. So in my case, I created City Skylines, and it's going to spit out this long series of numbers and letters, which you're going to want to copy. So now we're going to head back into our terrain tool, and you want to go to the settings icon here in the upper right corner. First, it's very important that you change this setting to CS2 because the height maps are not the same size for City Skylines 1 and 2. And if you export a map for City Skylines 1, it's simply not going to work. So very important to switch the height map type to CS2. You don't have to change any of the other settings. But what's also very important to do here is where it says access token, this is where you want to paste the token that you've just created from your MapBox account. So once you have all that set up, you can close this, and you're going to want to click on PNG up here in the upper right corner. It's going to load for a second, and it's going to download 2 separate PNG files, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So these 2 PNG files, you're going to want to save them under this path here. So C users, whatever your username is, app data, local low, colossal order, City Skylines, height maps. Now in my case, this height maps folder was not created automatically. It is simply just a matter of creating a new folder. But in your case, it may already be created. I don't know if the developers are going to update this eventually, but just be aware that it's not a big deal if you don't see the height maps folder already created. You can just create it manually. So the 2 PNG files that will be generated from our little tool here, you want to save them in this folder. And you'll see here that one of our files is named Heightmap, followed by a series of letters and numbers. And the second one is called World Map, followed by a series of numbers and letters. Now, as I explained early on, the Heightmap file is what's contained within this green area here, which you can build on, whereas your world map is whatever's included in this big gray square. So this is outside of the city borders. You can't actually build on this section of your map. Now we're ready to launch the game. And once you're in your game's main menu, you want to go to Editor. Just note it may take a second or two to load, and then you'll be brought here. So now click on Modify Terrain, where this little shovel icon is, and we're going to click on Import Heightmap. So as you can see, both of your PNG files should show up in this list. So we're going to select our Heightmap and go load. And you may see a little lightning bolt appear, signifying that you have successfully imported your very own Heightmap. So this is totally optional, but I'm going to do import world map. I'm going to select my world map PNG and hit load. And as you can see, it has imported the entire surrounding area around my playable area. And like I said, this is totally optional. I recommend you do it because it just adds another, layer of detail to your map. But you can actually create a map without having this world map. And the game, I believe, will just create like a random map based on the topography of your actual playable area. So now that you've actually imported your map, we've actually just got the easy part done. There's still quite a bit of work to be done, and that is just setting up your map to actually be playable. So if you go here under your workspace tab, we're going to go to map and scroll down all the way to the bottom and expand checklist. You can actually see here all the criteria that is required for your map to be playable. So we need some groundwater in your starting area. We have to have some road connections on the borders of the map, and your map has to have a name. And as you can see down below here, we have a ton of options that are not required, but I mean, I really recommend that you have these on your map, such as ore areas, forests, some train connections, all of these options that are outlined here. So here under the map tab, you can see that we have all of our options from the name of our map. So here I can do New York, map description. You can type up a description if you want. This is optional. And here is a bunch of settings that you can change as far as the starting year, starting month, all those little things. This is a really good option in my opinion. You're actually able to select your starting tiles. So by default, I think the game just selects the tiles that are in the center of your map, but you may not want to start your city in this region. So what you can do is select starting tiles, and there is a graphical bug when you select this option. I'm not sure if the devs are going to fix this or not, but just be aware that, this graphical issue does exist. So what you can do is actually deselect these squares, and perhaps you want to start off your city in this region of the map instead. You can totally do that. In fact, you can even select the entire map. So essentially, when you start your new game, you'll have the entire map unlocked. So you may want to do that in certain cases. You even have the option to capture your camera position. This is the position in which your camera will start when you build your city, when you start building your city. Very important to choose a theme for your city. So whether or not you want it to be an American or European themed city. If you're going to post your map on the Paradox mods page, you can actually upload a preview and a thumbnail for your map if you want to make your thumbnail look a bit nicer. So that is totally an option. One thing I really recommend doing as you're working on your map is to save often. I've had the map editor crash on me a couple of times. It hasn't happened too often, but just be aware that there is the possibility of that happening. So I recommend saving a lot while you're editing your map, because you may spend X amount of hours tweaking and editing your map before actually completing it. So the next tab that is very important to go over is the climate tab, okay? So the map editor is actually very powerful, and one of the things that it gives you the ability to do is to edit the climate of your map, of course, with there being seasons in the game, right? So in this case here, I have a New York map, and the default weather preset should be okay for me because, New York has winters. It has all 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. So this should be fine. But let's say you're building a tropical map that's based off of, I don't know, somewhere in Florida. Well, what I would recommend you do is go up here to load climate prefabs, and here you'll find all of the default maps climates that have been created by the City Skylines devs. So if you're creating a tropical map, I would recommend that you select the Sunshine Peninsula climate. So Sunshine Peninsula is part of the default maps that are included in the game, and it's a very tropical and warm map. So by going load, it is going to change all of these parameters here, and it'll make your map be in a tropical setting, so you won't have snow. But you can actually modify all these settings on your own. You can even go as far as setting the latitude and longitude of your map. So this will affect the amount of sunlight that your map gets, thus affecting the climate of your map. So if you want to have an accurate representation of how much sunlight New York gets, you can find the latitude and longitude of the city and input these values here. Now the next tab I'm going to go over is water, and this is very important, as when you import a Heightmap, the game doesn't necessarily know where there's supposed to be water. So you're going to have to put water spawners in the appropriate locations. So when you click on the water tab, you'll have 4 different types of water spawners. Now they each do different things, and it's important to understand what exactly they do. And when you're editing your water on your map, I highly recommend pausing the game to avoid any crazy spillage, because sometimes when you place a water spawner, you know, you can just flood an entire area on your map. So just to give you guys an example, I'll show you here. If I want to create a lake, so let's go here in where Central Park would be, and I have this big lake here. So for a lake, I'm going to want to spawn a constant rate water source. So I'm going to go add item, and you'll see here that I have a little circle that's going to spawn in. And what you need to do is select this element, expand it down below here, and you'll have a radius, pollution, and rate. So radius is simply the size of your water spawner. The rate is essentially the height of how much water is going to spawn. Pollution is, well, I recommend that you don't touch this, but you can actually spawn pollution directly into your water without having to like pump sewage into your water. So I can make this lake totally polluted if I wanted to by adjusting this metric. So I'm going to lower the rate of this water spawner to, well, pretty much 0, because you want to avoid spawning in a water spawner and just having water go everywhere. So I think it's a good idea to just lower this to almost 0, and then you can hit play, and you'll see that there's a little tiny bit of water that's going to start to rush in here, and then you can slowly increase your rate, and that's going to increase the amount of water that will begin spawning here. Now, as you can see, the water here is kind of coming in slowly, and depending on the size of your body of water that you're creating, it may take forever. But what you can do here is increase the game speed, or even better, you can actually increase the simulation speed of the water itself. So if I boost this way up to 64, you can see here that, well, I mean, I flooded out this entire area. So that's a good example of why you have to be very careful of how much water you're spawning in. So I'm just going to lower the rate at which this water spawner functions. Actually, I think I might have to go into the negatives here for some reason. But if you do cause a flood, it's not a big deal. You can delete a water spawner, and well, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to this water. I think it's just slowly going to get absorbed back into the map. But anyway, just be mindful, be very careful with these water spawners, because you can make a mess very easily. So yeah, if you want to create lakes, the constant rate water source is what you would want. Now, the 2 biggest water sources that you're most likely going to want to plop on your map is a border river water source. So this is if you have, like in this case, we have the Hudson River. I would likely want to have a border river water source plopped right over here. So I think in this case I got lucky, and the water source is at an all right level. I probably want to increase the height of this a little bit, and just be sure that you zoom in here onto your shorelines and slowly raise the water to whatever height that you want it. And same here with the border river water source. You can move this source around, you can increase the radius. So, but just by dragging left and right while holding your left mouse button, you can increase or reduce the size, or you can just input a value into this field and manually set this. So let's say that you're building a coastal city. You may want to plop down a border sea water source. So in this case here, I mean, we do have the New York Bay, or, you know, whatever the appropriate name is, which kind of is out to sea. So I'm probably going to want to create a sea water source here. So I'm just going to pause the game, add item. Now these are always very large because, you know, the sea is a very large body of water. So again, just make sure that you pause the game and potentially reduce the size of your water spawner. So I'm going to do maybe like 500. Yep, that seems all right. And I'm going to place it in the very corner here. I'm going to reduce the height just a little bit, just so I don't flood out this entire area. And away it goes. And this is one of the most exciting points of your map creating process. Once you have all your water down, you can really tell that your map is starting to take shape, but there's still a little bit of work to do. We're going to go into our resources tab here, and you're going to want to make sure that your map has all of the required resources in order to function. Don't forget to place down some groundwater, and this actually functions similar to the in-game tools. So down below here in the lower left corner, you can adjust your brush size and brush strength to place down all of your resources. So make sure you have plenty of groundwater, plenty of fertile land, and ore, oil if you want. And just note that as you're placing down these resources, you can tell that the game here is kind of making some copies of some of my resources on the outskirts of the map. I think this is just like a visual thing that the game does just to create some uniformity throughout your entire map, but it's not a problem or anything like that. Now, some other tools that may be useful to you as you're editing your map, you can actually adjust the time of day, the time of year. So if your map has a winter, you can zoom right into the winter to see how your map is going to look. And you can adjust the cloudiness of your map on the fly, which, you know, could be useful in some situations. Now, all that's left to do is to actually start populating our map with props and trees and things like that. So what you're going to want to do is go down here to add object, and you'll be presented with a list of everything in the game. So all the buildings, vehicles, props, trees, everything is available in this list. So what I would recommend you do is go down to foliage. You can even drill down these lists here and go by North American themed or European themed trees, or you can just select every kind of tree. And what you want to do is just begin populating your map with trees. So here I'll just select, I don't know, maybe some alders. And this works identically as if you were in your game. So you can adjust your brush sizes. You also have some options down here in the lower right. You can drag this bar from left to right, and you can begin adding some trees to your map. And this is also how you're going to add roads to your map in order to create your highway connections. So what I would do here is select a 2-lane one-way, and similar again to how you would do it in the game, you can select your parallel road tool, go to the very edge of your map, and spawn in a section of highway, and there you have it. There is your road connection. Just make sure that you bring your road connection into the starting tiles of your map if you have individual starting tiles. Like I showed you early on, I basically unlocked the entire map, so as long as I have a road coming from the edge of the map, then I'm good. And also note that here is where you would add tracks to your map as well. Now, some things that you may be looking for are not as obvious. You may not be sure which menu they are under. There is a search tool up here. So for example, if I want to plop a airplane connection to my map, I can just search airplane here, and I can plop a airplane outside connection. So to do this, just go to the very edge of your map and add some outside airplane connections. So it's as easy as that. What's cool about this menu as well is you're able to add props. So if I want to add some boulders, some bushes, some benches, tables, fires, whatever you want, there is hundreds and hundreds of props. So you can really spend a lot of time editing your map to your heart's content. You can add entire sections of road and railway connections and all sorts of stuff in your city, even before actually beginning to build on it. And also don't forget that by going to modify terrain, you have your classic terrain tools here. So if you want to add mountains or flatten out specific areas, that is totally possible. Now, when you feel that your map is ready to be played on, you're ready to go and start your brand new city, it is super easy to do so. Just go to map, save map, and give your map a name. And by saving your map, it's going to appear in your maps list when you go to start a new game. And that is it, guys. That is how you import your very own custom height maps into City Skylines 2 and how to edit them using the map editor to make them functional, to be able to play on them. So I really hope you found this tutorial useful and informative. I hope that the map editor looks a little less daunting now that you've watched my tutorial. So the only thing left for you guys to do is to hop right in and go create custom maps of your own. I thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment down below, and certainly don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of future uploads. Until the next video, guys, take care.